I'm operating two devices here. Come on, turn on. Okay. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Regional Wastewater Reclamation Advisory Committee's meeting of November 17, 2022. Please mute your microphones. This will help ensure we do not have any feedback or other background noises to interfere with the speaker. If a committee member would like to ask a question, please use the raise your hand feature. Please remember to lower your hand once your question has been addressed. When you're ready to speak, please unmute your microphone. This is especially important during votes. Do not forget to mute yourself when finished. As a reminder, audience members are only permitted to speak during the call to the audience unless called upon by the committee. This meeting is being recorded to satisfy open meeting law requirements. Second, I have to open up. I'm using two devices today. Okay, trying to get my agenda. Okay, so call to the order. Roll call. Veronica, do roll call, please.
Scott Oldendorf.
Here.
Claire Zucker.
Here.
Steve Foley.
Here.
Allison Jones.
Here.
Rob Kulikowski.
Here.
Matt Mathewson.
Here.
Armando Membria.
Presente.
Asia Philbin.
Here.
Anne-Marie Wolf. Anne-Marie. I see she's online, but she's muted.
If you're muted, Anne-Marie, please unmute.
Okay, we still have a quorum. We'll keep going.
Okay, very good. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is call to the audience. Do we have any comments from call to the audience? Okay, hearing none. Next is going to be the safety share. Does anybody have anything to participate on safety share?
And we had a incident here 2 days ago, and it's one of the more common type of incidents that we have: slips, trips, and falls. So we had a gentleman working in our centrifuge building, and because of the polymer that's used in the centrifuge process, it had a slippery floor from a spill that wasn't cleaned up all the way. The person had to get in there to do some additional maintenance work and was aware of it, but it was just too slick, and down he went. Unfortunately, this gentleman has a issue unrelated to work. He has a back issue, and he fell on his butt and back and hit his head. So we hope he's okay. But nonetheless, it was an unfortunate incident. And there was a contractor in there that came over to help him get up, and the contractor slipped also. He didn't fall like the first guy did, but we had some urgent discussions on how we can continue to improve that environment over there. I mean, we have some long-term fixes, but the short-term is more important to clean up, and every time you change hoses and swap things out, you're going to get some residual on the floor, and that stuff is, the best description. It's like snot. So, at any rate, just an area that we've identified a concern with, and we'll continue to work on protocols to keep it as safe as we can, and more warnings and more reminders to staff, you know, and even putting down some of the more non-skid tape and other things that might help get better footing, but it's a concern. But when we look back at a lot of our own safety incidents, many of them are slips, trips, and falls, and not just on a slippery surface, but, you know, people on uneven surfaces or wet surfaces or snow. And that's gonna be a big focus for our safety sheriffs for a while. And especially as we get into the winter months, and we will get some frosts and some ice on some of our areas. That happens every year. So we'll just keep that fresh in everyone's mind, but it's a good one to share with this group too.
And also to add to your description, besides snot, I always think it feels like okra. Very slippery, very, very slippery stuff. Does anybody have any additional safety shares they would like to give?
Veronica just reminded me about the Tour de Tucson this Saturday, this coming weekend. So a lot of road closures, a lot of activity. It's a big event in the community. So if you're out and about, maybe plan ahead so you don't go the wrong places that you're going to have a lot of congestion and backup. Plus just people get out to go see the event. So it'll be a busy day Saturday. It should be a nice weather day too. So.
Great. That's great. Any more participants for safety share? Okay, hearing none, then I go straight into the approval of the minutes from October 27, 2022. Are there any amendments, any corrections or anything for the minutes from last month? I have a comment from Rob. Rob, go ahead.
Yeah, on number E, I abstained from the vote because I wasn't there on in September.
Okay, well, this is the October. Okay, so yeah. You were mentioning. Okay, got it.
And then and also on item H, call to the audience. I'd like that be rewritten in English instead of an acronym alphabet soup. When they, you know, if anybody's reading this, they're not going to know what the heck they're looking at.
We do have to open it up for people outside the wastewater industry. Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's it.
I'll make the changes, Rob.
You got
Thank
it.
you. Are there any more amendments, corrections to the minutes of October last month?
This is Matt. Given those corrections, I move we approve the minutes of last month's meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? Hearing no noes, any abstains?
Actually, I'll abstain because this is Anne Marie because I wasn't here last month. Okay.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Anne Marie. So all in the ayes have it. The minutes from last month of October 27 have been passed. Next on is going to be the director's update with Jackson. Jackson, it's all yours.
Good morning, everyone. The only focus area I have this morning is just to remind you, one of the core functions of this committee is our budget activities and our financial activities, and we're in that time of year. So there's a lot of conversations going on, and we'll be having a lot of county meetings internal to the budget, obviously. And so I just want to, just keep you updated on this topic and just make sure you're asking for anything you need as we go through the next few months of budget activity. But for instance, I do have a question. Let me see who's on from finance. I see Isai. I'll pose the question to Isai. When we borrow our money for our capital projects, when we go out and get the capital, because we're trying to go to pay as you go, and I believe wastewater is like maybe on a current 9-year cycle. It used to be the old 15-year, and I think we're down to 9, but somewhere around there. when we borrow the money for this coming year or, future years, do we borrow it at 15 years right now, or do we borrow it at the 9 that we're at, or are we borrowing it? How do we determine that amortization cycle for the loans that we're borrowing now?
They look at what's the best interest they can obtain. So either whatever best interest for you guys, that's what they obtain it at. With the possibility to pay it off earlier, that's one of the caveats that I know. So if we can pay out early, we will. But if we can get the money at lower interest rate, that's what we try to do. We always try to get at the lowest rates we can.
And I wasn't really wanting to get into the conversation on the budget. That's not my presentation. I'm just sharing some thoughts to the committee as they plan for information they want to request and what they want to do.
Mhm.
But because, I know we have some interest rates on our current existing debt principal that's even like less than 1%, but 1-2%. We have some pretty low loans that we have out. But obviously with what's gone on in inflation and in the economy, interest rates have gone up significantly, and maybe we're going to be at 4 or 5 or some higher percent, and finance can speak to that as we go through these, activities when we're having more budget discussions. But because we're paying defeasance, I'm just curious, can we focus our payment on our newer loans at the higher interest rate to pay them off quicker and extend the payback on our older loans that are at a low interest rate? So that's kind of something that hopefully finance can elaborate on that. This isn't the discussion on it. I'm just throwing out concepts for future discussion, but just keep that in mind. That's one. But I was curious, when we do get our current
Definitely.
loans, what are they for? What type of amortization or cycle are they for? So all things that we should be talking about. So.
Yeah, and we can definitely work with our debt service division manager for those types of questions.
Okay. Of course, wastewater, we're trying to get all of our information together, and we're meeting with finance offline, not just in this meeting, obviously, but one of the ones we're meeting next week, we have a meeting to go through our current rate workbook, which you all on this committee have seen, but going through again with some of the new assumptions or new details like interest rate and amortization period, just in looking at that stuff, looking at the sensitivity on the rate workbook. Because, one of the conversations I was in is that maybe we should cut back on the amount of capital. There's still the interest to keep our user fees from having to be increased. We've had 6 years without an increase, and we know that the pressures of this current fiscal year's inflation, it jumped our O&M budget up a fair amount because of inflation, and it's still there. And so those pressures are real and going to continue. And you can't not pay for inflation. It's the world we live in. But okay, if we were to cut back on the amount of capital we have, how would that impact us? And I'm not sure it's going to be as much of an impact because it's over the longer period of time that you're paying that interest and the principal back. But again, that's the activities you all need to go through. So I'm just kind of sharing some of my thoughts. Just a rule of thumb, I always like to repeat this time of year. The last I looked, we were still we had $1.2 billion in assets. It may be getting closer to 1.3, but the number in my mind is 1.2 billion. And there's a general rule of thumb that, for general industry and maybe wastewater and some manufacturing, people look at reinvesting in themselves at a 2 to 5% rate of their asset value. And of course, some industries maybe are, that have long life of their equipment and infrastructure, maybe could do with 2. Some that have a lesser life, or, a life cycle or depreciation cycle of equipment and infrastructure may go with 5. We kind of target right in the middle at about a 3.5%. And so 3.5, roughly on our 1.2 billion, we're looking at a $42 million O&M just to reinvest in ourselves in that capital formula. And of course, then we have augmentation projects that require capacity issues. We have technology projects. We have other special projects that come up that we get added to that. So we've been in that $50 million range of capital more recently. And if we don't stay, like 42 is kind of the basis just for rehab and reinvestment in yourself, and everything else above that takes us further. And, the county's having a lot more serious conversations about our carbon footprint and doing more on that side of things. So that's additional investments. And, we have ideas and thoughts of what we'll do and how we'll continue to move in those directions, but it's all finance driven. And so your awareness from your board, whoever has appointed you to this committee, be it, primarily the Board of Supervisors, having, some initial understanding of what they're interested in might help you guide us in these conversations, because we'd hate to go one direction and we get to the board and, hey, sorry, we can't give you that budget. We have different plans, whatever. Is it not raising rates? Is it investing in reducing our carbon footprint? What are all the competing interests, and sometimes they're opposite competition. I just want you guys to look at that as well and share that with you. And, again, on these upward pressures of our budget, a lot of time I think people lose sight of the fact, maybe growth has only been around 1% out there in recent times, and that's fine. But 1% is 1%, and every year at least 1% increase in the amount or strength, and I put both those terms, of the sewage we have to process, because our community is very conservation minded, and so even though we grow by 1% more people or more customers, the sewage volume doesn't necessarily increase by that same amount. But if it doesn't, it's because people are still using the sewer, they're just doing it with less water. And so the strength of the sewage goes up, and that's still the key part of processing sewage, is what's in the volume coming to us. It's not necessarily hydraulically you have to move that volume, but it's what's in it. And that strength, we continue to see that upward trend. So just keep those in mind as we talk as well. And again, we have every year, and it's on a capital line item on our budget, that developers hand over sewer pipe to us. They go build a development or some area, and they put things in, and they typically, the general model is they put the sewer infrastructure in, and then they hand the keys to that structure over to us, say, here you go. And so that adds cost for O&M. Of course, initially it's newer material and you don't have as much cost with new pipes and whatnot, but sometimes they don't just give you pipe. They may give you a pump station, or they may give you an odor device, and all those things add to us. And of course, when they just get mixed in our economy of scales, we think we can absorb a lot of that. We don't, at some point, when you get so much handed over, you have to add staffing at some point. But, right now, we're not looking at any of our models show more staffing at all, but we're really struggling this year to find if we'll be able to cut any positions. Right now, there aren't any obvious ones. And in fact, staffing is still probably the biggest issue of the day, trying to keep our positions filled. And that's just, it's not just a problem for wastewater, it's all over the place. And yet work has to get done. And so we're using a lot more contracted services. And I guarantee you those are a lot more expensive than us doing it ourselves. So those pressures continue. Our technology focus, Jeff's been very active in a lot of interactions with other groups and professional organizations and other utilities. And, we've, like the new RESIS project that we put in, or our biogas cleaning, those are technology. And, especially the gas cleaning project, that gave us a nice revenue and has a payback. And it helps on our carbon footprint, all the right stuff for that one. But there's additional ones like this solar drying that we're still looking like we want to do and hope to do, but it's going to be a 30, 40 million, maybe, we're not sure. what the capital investment will be and what that payback may be for it, but that's one of those questions. Should it be on our list or should it not? But we're out seeking, some firms to give us a bid on that. So at any rate, those are some of the many questions we have. You know, Animox is the low energy, nitrification, denitrification we want to implement on our side stream of heavy ammonia concentration. Again, it has great stuff that will help us in other ways as well, but is it appropriate to do or not? And depending on those competing interests of money and what the board's direction is. I think that's mostly everything I wanted to tell you, just in general. Again, obviously probably getting to be the time where subcommittees meet, and I think we do have one scheduled for the capital CIP, but not yet for the O&M, but it's the season, we're getting started, we're having our own internal discussions, and I just wanted to share some thoughts and throw that at you for your planning and preparation for the next few months. So that's all, thank you. You're muted, Scott. You're still muted, Scott.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for Jackson? Okay, thank you very much, Jackson. Thanks for that informative budget process. Next on the agenda is the Conveyance Division update with Jaime Rivera. Jaime, it's all yours.
Hi, good morning. Here's the Sears conveyance update. We'll start with our structure. Basically, we have an administration that handles most of the personnel and budget items, and we are divided in this manner. Gravity is about is the biggest division or section we have with 48. They do all the O&M activities, and we're broken down also by CIP, pumps, and other control groups. Administration handles the facilities. We have at the main administration building in Dutch Boulevard, we have also an annex a little bit to the south of that facility. We also have 21 active pump stations and 27 odor control sites. They manage paying utility bills, facility, when we need facilities to come and do repairs. They also manage those work orders. They also manage the personnel functions, recruitments, disciplinary actions, and keeping track of the training of our personnel. They also handle community customer service. We receive about 1,600 calls in a given year, and they can go from anywhere from vector complaints, order complaints, SSOs. They handle those calls and they send them to the right units for them to be handled. They also do all our procurement, purchasing, petty cash, that type of thing. And they also handle our security with the cameras and access control to the facilities. Safety is its own section. It has 3 personnel, 1 supervisor, and 2 helpers that go out, and they are on call 24/7. They support field engineering in the engineering section. They also support all our activities out in the field, and sometimes they also help the flow monitoring groups when they have to do confined space entry. They focus on confined space for our structures, like the picture you see there at the bottom to the right. They also do traffic control when there's a high traffic intersection or street. They go help the crews to set up their traffic control for their safety. Our CCTV group, it's the basis of our CMM permit. They are scheduled to do a full TV of our system every 10 years, and we're about halfway through our current second cycle. So started in 2017, we're aiming to finish it by 2027. Most of this is done by contract with ProPipe. There are contractor for CCTV activities, and they go day in, day out. They basically do a full cycle of all our pipe interceptors and smaller lines, RTV. Interceptors are done every 5 years. So we just finished our first 5-year cycle, starting in 2017. And the results you can see here, those are the preliminary results of their assessment. Based on what they find, we're estimating those repairs that you see there, and they're budgeted through the next 5 years as interceptor rehabilitation and repair. Items that we're looking to improve on our next cycle, we've seen that PVC pipe, for example, it doesn't degrade as fast as DIP or concrete. So we are looking at possibly in the next cycle extending that inspection of PVC pipe material every 2 cycles, for example. That will reduce our amount of pipe we need to inspect in each given cycle, and hopefully that'll either reduce the time we take to do the full inspection or maybe reduce the yearly budget for inspection. So we're looking at those options to see how they can better be implemented. Our asset management group manages the databases that basically are our brain on the operation for conveyance. They manage IPS, which is our work order system, 30 years of data in work orders, repairs, inspections, and they also manage the Granite database, which is that CCTV program where all the results of that CCTV inspection are collected in Granite. And between the 2 databases, IPS and Granite, they try to merge them and help us manage our work order schedules and our repairs and operations for the division. They also manage the SSO reporting. When there's an SSO, we report up to the state, or if it's a private SSO, we help the local PDEQ group to handle those calls. They also manage collateral damage recovery when there's a contractor that by mistake break one of our lines and we have to go out and repair them or help them clean the area because of a spill. We'll go out and recover or send recovery claims for those contractors. They handle those activities. The area RUT, they manage that program also. They are on a 3-year cycle, and they've been trying to optimize the program of air RUT and cleaning so they don't overdo it. So from reviewing the database and trying to improve the doubling up of activities, they have been able to reduce about 13% of the work orders going out. So that reduces the amount of work our crews have to do on a day-to-day basis. They're also reviewing all the PM through those 30 years of history and data we have in that system. There are many old preventive maintenance work orders that were set up, and they are scheduled on 6-month or 9-month or 10-month schedule every year. So they're so old that they're going back and reviewing all of them to see if they're still needed or not. And it's a 4-phase program they're working on. The first 2 phases, it's looking like we will be able to reduce by a good 50% the amount of work orders that they were going out on a schedule to perform, which are no longer needed. The pipe has been repaired or the roots or lined. There are no root intrusions because we have lined those pieces of pipe. So many of those are not needed, and we're cleaning those out, which will reduce the amount of work orders they need to go out and execute every given week or day. They are also in charge of the mobile tablets that the crews use on the field. And we're currently switching from a Windows-based tablet, which is very expensive, to an Android-based device that is a lot cheaper and easier to repair and replace. That's a program that will be implemented in the next couple of weeks, actually. They also handle the online customer portal. If there are complaints, customers can go into this portal and submit their auto control or auto vector or any type of complaint that will go to our IPS system, which automatically puts out a work order for our crews to go out and respond. So it helps us with the efficiency and the time of response for each one of those. The gravity group handles the SSOs. Whenever there's something that needs to be that's reported as an overflow, the crews have 40 minutes. That's our goal, to respond and show up and try to clear that problem. They also have preventive maintenance they handle, and they do any follow-ups that may be needed. Here on the right, you can see a breakdown of scheduled maintenance versus unscheduled maintenance or reactive maintenance. The blue is everything we plan, PMs, area rod, any type of work that we have scheduled through the year. And the red is any unknowns, emergencies, SSOs, contractor hits, and that's how those work orders are broken down.
And that's like pretty impressive right there. That's, you know, compared to where we've been and where we're at, that's great. That's like a benchmark right there.
So hopefully that keeps everything under control and the unknowns as small as possible. The SSO response on the bottom, you can see the breakdown between private and public. We have 30 SSOs in the calendar year 2022. They're broken down by 12 maintenance related SSOs, either roots, grease, grit. 4 of them were caused by construction events, contractors heating a line by mistake or losing a plug, and 3 of those SSOs were flooded structures because of stoppages. 3 of them were vandalism, people just opening covers and throwing things that block our lines. And 8 of them are caused by blowouts. Blowouts are maintenance high pressure trucks when they are in an area with shallow lines, for example. If they use too much pressure, that water will move into the homes. And when that happens, our crews identify that area as a low pressure area, and in the work orders in the future, when they go back to that area, will show a warning that they need to use low pressure in those areas. And as they are identified, we populate our database to make sure the next cycle doesn't impact those homes in the same manner. One of our biggest programs is the area rod. It was started in the early 2000s. We're in our seventh cycle. The area rod goes through every pipe 15 inches or smaller, and in a systematic way, they clean all those or rod those lines. That's probably the reason our SSO rate is so low. It's it's under a 0.1. It's under 1% of per 100 miles of pipe. So it is one of the lowest in the country, and this area rod program is the reason for it. We're on our 7th cycle. We're about to finish it in 2025 and start our 8th cycle in 2026. The second shift is responsible for that program. It's later part of the afternoon and night when traffic is slow, so they can go and do a lot of footage without interruptions or having to worry too much about high traffics. The first shift is responsible for supporting them if they're running for whatever reason, they need some more footage to keep up their rate. And the third shift is done when there's safety needs, like a high traffic intersection that they need to do early in the morning or late at night. Our equipment is spelled down there. We have 7 trucks, combo trucks, high pressure and vector units, 13 water trucks, 1 water truck, and we have 12 pickups that support those bigger pieces of equipment. Our gravity crews are broken down by utility workers 1, 2, and 3. Ones are our entry level. We have 21 entry level personnel, 14 leads, and 7 senior operators. Vector program is our program where we spray every manhole in the system once every 2 years. It is done again like the area road in a systematic manner. IPS now is in a transition to use a GIS-based system where they can track where they're going next to spray, where they have been before, and that way they can see if there's any areas or they missed any of the quarter sections. Last year we had, or the ongoing year we have so far received 942 complaints for vectors. When that happens, our crews go out, they inspect the manhole. If there's a certain amount of vectors present, they will go back and respray. The manholes are in a 2-year warranty, so anytime vectors are seen in those manholes that were sprayed, they have to go back and spray them basically for free because they're under warranty. Like I said, the system is transitioning to a GIS program where they will manage and issue work orders based on the map and where they have been, where they're going to go next. That'll help them make sure everything is covered at the end of the 2-year cycle. CRP program for this coming year is $54 million. We recently transitioned the design build CMAR bigger projects to the Pima County CPO group. We had a lot of retirements this past year, so the CPO, the capital programs group, is helping us manage those programs. Treatment and conveyance are still doing the job order contract that are directly related to maintenance, rehabilitation, and repair of assets, and those are better handled right there at either at the facility or at the conveyance yard. The breakdown of those two groups is shown to the left, to the right. $29 million are being managed by CPO, 25 million in maintenance repair jobs, and other smaller projects are handled by PMs within the department. Pump systems group is managing 21 active pump stations and 1 bar screen. They're focusing on maintenance, repair, making sure that the systems are running as they should. We have not had any SSOs on pump stations for many years, which is usually the weak link in other jurisdictions. Most people have trouble, or most jurisdictions have trouble with pump stations, and that's where their SSOs usually happen. But this group is doing a good job at keeping everything running and avoiding SSOs in those locations. The odor control group manages 27 sites. They're broken down by Thiogar, which is the magnesium hydroxide product that is supplied out in the outskirts of the system. It's a long-lasting chemical that controls odors for miles. In specific locations where there is either turbulence or high level of odors in a particular area, we install biofilters. We have 12 of those in those particular locations. We have 1 sodium hypochlorite site. We try not to use hydrochlorine because it's a dangerous chemical, but in this particular location by the interconnect, it's the best solution because of the short area of the control of that chemical of odors. We also have 3 granular activated carbon units. They're all inactive, except for one small one in the pump station at Continental Ranch. We only use those if needed, but for the most part, they're off. We have 3 sites that we're looking at adding to the system in the oil control group. One is in Marianne Cleveland Way. This is the Southeast Interceptor by Vail, in the Vail area. We have another one that's as a test site currently in the middle of town, like Grant and Alberna, that will handle the middle of town interceptor. And we're discussing with Pascoyaki to see if they allow us to put a site in the west side of town to serve Abra Valley and that western part of the county. They also handle complaints for odor. They go visit customers and try to educate them on how to keep odors in their homes low, heat traps, running water, and that type of recommendations. Going forward, they'll keep trying to optimize the use of the chemical fiber, which is expensive but very effective. And the goal is to use it just where we need it and at the time we need it, not all the time. So they are working to scale the dose to the lowest level that will still get the job done. Couple of products that are systems we're using that help us manage the system. The Smart Cover is a sensor that's providing real-time data on flow levels. It's not as accurate as the flow monitoring laser flows, but it gives us a good sense of when there are stoppages or potential problem areas by telling us what the level is on our map. And if the level goes up to a certain level, we receive an alarm by email or text, and the crews can go out and see if there's something they need to do to address that. The same system also has sensors for H2S, and we're using these sensors a lot to try and fine tune that chemical use. It'll give us a good real-time reading of H2S levels in downstream of one of the CDUs, for example, and then we can tweak the amount we put in of the chemical to just what we need to get that level down without spending or inputting chemical at low during the low times of the H2S levels. Another area we're working on is the Power BI dashboards, taking all that data from IPS, granted, the Smart Cover sensors, and collecting them into one place where they can all be seen in one place and share and compare, overlay different data from different databases to see where we can improve, what we can do to maintain a good operation. And that's all we got for today. Are there any questions?
Thanks, Ed.
Very good. Thank you, Jaime. Matt, you have a question?
Yes, Jaime, could you go back to the asset management slide, please?
Maybe not.
If not a problem. Yeah, thank you. So my question relates to the collateral damage recovery program. So I'm seeing that last year, we got recovered less than 50% of what we billed. Wondering if that's a normal recovery rate, or if there's things going on that that maybe should change to enhance that. And then secondly, in this year, we've got 3 times as much billed, recovering right about the same level as last year. And that would make sense if you've got billing action ongoing right now still. But is that high number of 187,000 really abnormal, comparing to last year, or was it an unusual event that caused the majority of that? Whatever you can share with us about that program and some of those dynamics, I'd appreciate.
So the process goes where we submit a recovery request to our waste management, and they try for a certain time or a certain length of time to recover or negotiate with the person who caused the accident or the break. When that doesn't work and they are unable to get either a response or a recovery of the funds, that package goes to the attorney's office and they will pursue more formally the recovery action. The 2021 percentage you see there, it is actually what happened. Some, they just won't decide not to pay, or they are still in litigation, some of them. The 2022 187 is an abnormal year. There was a big claim that's ongoing with the attorney's office, and it's reflected there. If you take that out, you'll probably be closer to the 2021 level, although a little bit higher. And those claims that are still in the attorney's office, they're counted as not recovered yet. So that's the big difference between the bill and recover in 2022.
Yeah, and Matt, we have a number of different claims and litigation going. We wanted to make sure that we don't have a reputation that if you just stall and ignore it, that will go away. We're trying to make sure people know that, hey, you did something that you're at fault for. We expect to be reimbursed for it, because it's our ratepayers that have to pick up that cost otherwise. So I think we're getting that message out there. But at the same time, we've increased the workload on our county attorney's office. They, like many others, are having their own staffing issues. And in fact, on a couple of bigger cases, we've hired outside counsel to pursue it because they don't have enough resources. But definitely a great question. And we're trying to make sure our reputation is one that we hold people accountable for these type of things.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Any more questions for Jaime? Jaime, the only thing, that was an excellent program, Jaime. If you could get with Veronica, I would like to get that presentation given to all the representatives and to the Board of Supervisors. And since we're heading into a budget process, that would be an excellent resource for the supervisors to view, if that's possible, Jaime and Veronica.
Yes, I have the PowerPoint, so I'll send that out.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Okay, proceeding next on our agenda is the CIP subcommittee report with Asia. Asia, it's all yours.
Thank you, Matt. Hi, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm driving right now. As was mentioned, I don't think we have the date for the next CIP committee, but we do have some options. So hopefully those on the CIP committee have indicated options. I think the second and third week in January. So we'll be meeting then. And Veronica, can you confirm, would we be including the new county CIP group in that meeting?
Yes, I've already touched base with Nancy Cole, so I'll be including her in the meeting.
Okay, great, thank you. And then that would be my report for the CIP subcommittee. Do any of the subcommittee members have anything to add?
I just had one question. Is that a hybrid online in person, or is it in person, or just online?
It's going to be virtual.
Very good. Okay, online it is. Okay.
And Matt, Matt, do you have your hand up? Or is that
Oh, I'm
from?
sorry.
You
I
put
put it
your
down.
hand
Sorry.
Okay.
Any additional questions for Asia? Okay, thank you, Asia. We'll be seeing you in January. Next
Sorry.
Next on the agenda is the financial subcommittee report with Matt Matheson.
Yes, thank you. There have been no financial subcommittee meetings this past month, so we have a negative report. I will get in touch with Jackson, Veronica, the team there to see how we ought to manage the timing of any upcoming subcommittee meetings to consider the budget proposals.
Very good, Matt. Thank you much. Any questions for Matt? Okay, very good. Thank you, Matt. Next on the agenda is the fiscal year 22-23 expense revenue summary. And I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce the first name. Is it Aisha?
Isai.
Ai. Okay, well, it's going to take a lot of practice in for me. I'm sorry. Ai, you're up on deck. Let us know all about the expense and revenue.
So then, Scott, thank you. I'll share my screen and we'll go over the information. Perfect. As we see, as October 31st, period 4, the total O&M expenditures for the department has been 26.2 million. The projection has been 91.4 with a slight variance of $2,000. Our total O&M expenditures, including contra, depreciation, debt services, up to now is 50.9 million. The projection is 170.7 with a projection variance of 199. Scrolling down to our revenue, so far we have 53.9. The projection is 193.4, and with a variance as well of 137,580 for that. So we've seen some pressures, like Jackson was talking about, on supply and services, and we have some helping us out is our vacancy savings. That's heavily helping us with that. A lot of people retiring and trying to get people in. So overall, that's our for period 4, and hopefully things will get better for us.
And I'm kind of piggybacking on, my presentation too, but, the personnel services, we continue to talk about our staffing concerns and issues, and the county has embarked on a holistic compensation evaluation and study for the county. And so we're fairly confident in believing that there'll be, again, upward pressures on wages are going to have to be to help make us sufficiently competitive in the marketplace. So our biggest cost item of personnel services should see some more pressures for next year's budget too. But, the vacancies show a shortfall because of vacancy savings. Hear what Isai presented, and that's a lot of that is being, we have increased overtime, and we also are paying contractors a lot more money to keep up with what we have to. So just adding that.
Correct.
Anything else, Ai?
That's covers the for this period.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that, sir. Do anybody have a question for Ai?
This is Allison. I'm sorry. You say, is that last column, that's in millions, right? 137 million? Or?
No,
Give
me 1 second. Let me share that again. Last column is
the lower right, the bottom right.
That's just basically the difference between our budget and what we're projecting spending this year. And out of the 193+ million, we're basically saying we're going to spend our budget. So that 137,000 is a very low number out of a $193 million plan. So that's just showing we're pretty much on track to be on budget. At this point, that's our projections.
So you're projecting straight line 161 million based on what's been incurred to date this fiscal year, right?
Right, and then projecting 193. Straight line is always lagging, and especially because the way the county finance is handled, like month one, the first month of July, you have super low cost because you're closing out the previous year's books, and it slowly catches up as the year goes on. So straight line is just, obviously it's straight line is pretty obvious what it is, but our projections, we know, many of our contracts and many of the things where they're gonna end up. And currently, our projections are matching with our budget, and straight line's not a great guide at this point. Straight line will be a very good guide late in the cycle.
So the 137,000, what two columns should I look at to see that difference?
I'm sorry, Isai, but just the adopted budget, $193,635,603. And the projection, the blue highlight projection, 193,498,023. My eyesight can't see it this far. The difference between those two columns.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right. Anybody else have questions for Aid? Well, thank you very much, Aid. That was a great presentation. Next on the agenda is our Citizen Water Advisory Committee CWAC report with Allison Jones. Allison, it's all yours.
Hello, everyone. The first thing I want to say is that you, as Veronica put on the agenda for this meeting, you can go online and see and watch any meeting of CWAC. CWAC met on November 2nd, and Sylvia Amparano gave the director's report. She did let us know that Mayor and Council approved a notice of intent to increase water rates. The cap surcharge fee is going to go from 70 cents to $1. And Tucson Water is expecting to increase cost 5.5% over each year for the next 4 fiscal years. This is going to go to a public hearing on January 10th, and Tucson Water will hold 6 scheduled open houses regarding rates to answer questions from ratepayers. Mayor and Council made a motion to return in 6 months with an analysis of regarding the.
Oh, Allison, you cut off your microphone. There you go.
Sorry, not sure how that happened. Mayor and Council made a motion to return in 6 months to discuss an alternative rate structure for commercial rates. And Mayor and Council did follow up on a CWAC recommendation. Wait. They also passed a motion to return in 6 months with language regarding analysis to expand the community garden rate to include small local agriculture in the community. I'm not sure why my microphone keeps going off. I didn't touch anything. So regarding PFAS, the forever chemical you've heard so much about, Tucson Water staff received direction to design and construct a PFAS remediation plant to intercept the PFAS plume, which is moving northward. It looks like it's going to be somewhere on the Reed Park property. There really isn't much real estate in this part of town to build something like that. EPA and ADQ have asked all parties involved to move ahead with PFAS remediation. And so the estimated cost of this is going to be $7.5 million in initial funding. The city hopes and plans to recover these costs, but right now it's going to be out of pocket. So on the consent agenda for Mayor and Council upcoming, there is about the Pima County wastewater billing IGA to keep the rate the same, And on December 20th, the Storm to Shade study session. A 3-year pilot study is done, and the results will be presented to Mayor and Council. That's pretty much the major parts of the CWAC meeting, but please feel free to go ahead and check out the recording, the videos online. Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Matt.
Okay, Matt?
Allison, on the possibility of an alternate rate structure for commercial rates and that 6-month analysis, will there be public involvement, outreach during that time, or is that something that would come after the analysis and a proposal is formally made?
It would come after, because frankly, right now, this request kind of came out of the blue to Mayor and Council. They really need a lot of analysis before they can do anything regarding this. So the analysis has to come first, and city and council has to decide if they even want to do anything with this, or they could soundly reject it right away.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Any other questions for Allison?
Yeah, this is Jackson Allison. And I think I have my monthly Tucson Water, Pima County wastewater meeting next week. I believe it's on the calendar. But, you know, one thing that we're starting to get tidbits of information is about direct potable reuse and the city's intent or Tucson Water's intent. Has that been anything discussed at CWAC on direct potable reuse?
Actually, not recently, yes. However, if you wish, I can make that a request to be on a future agenda.
Yeah, it might be a good one, and I see that Eve is on this Teams meeting as well, and Eve has been working diligently on the county side on the global issues of water that our community faces, and you know, it's good that we just all keep communication. So maybe as a future agenda item, even Eve might be able to help present also from a county perspective, but
Sure.
he'll probably send me hate mail later that I suggested that, but we'll see.
And I will say this, direct potable reuse is included in the One Water plan. So it's on the radar, and I think Tucson Water's very open to it. It's considered part of our overall long-term plan.
Thank you.
Very good, Allison. Thank you very much. Any additional questions for Allison? All right, thank you, Allison. That was a great update. Now we go into the future agenda items. Veronica, I think we already had a discussion. We're pushing off that one subject to January about our participation for water, what we're doing, or explain that, please.
Yes, you requested that we move it to January for the Colorado River.
Yes. So that's been pushed off to January. Any additional future agenda items? Allison, did you have one?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay.
I will bring direct potable reuse to CWAC though, as an agenda item, and perhaps we could then report back on that.
Okay, very good. Any additional future agenda items? Okay, next we go into call to the audience. Are there any comments from the audience? Okay, well, I guess that's it, everybody. We got that done in record fashion. I hope everybody has a great holiday. I just want to advise everyone that Claire Zucker is going to be officiating the meeting for December 15. So don't forget December 15 for our next meeting. And then I'll see you all again in January. Okay, do I have a call to adjourn? A motion to adjourn.
We adjourn.
Very good. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor, say yes.
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 Aye.
All, any noes?
I'll be a maverick. No. Happy Thanksgiving, y'all.
Okay, very good. And any abstains? All right, everyone, thank you very much. Have a safe holiday, and Claire Zucker will officiate on December 15th. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a great holiday.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey, Scott, have a great trip.